Hello there guys, and today I'm going to give you a tour of the Bandito room in anticipation for the next Otaku Bandito episode, which will be coming out sometime this spring. So be patient guys. But first, I want to show you the stuff that's in the living room of my house, but the location of my house will remain secret to you guys. Yeah, here's the Sega Dreamcast. It's a pretty good gaming system, and it's definitely one of the most underrated gaming consoles out there. It's definitely a good game console to go out with. I definitely recommend you to pick one up. So, thumbs up right there. Of course, there's Flag to Flag, which is a game based on the 1998 kart season, which is a racing league that's no longer there. In fact, the last championship they held in the Champ Car World Series was in 2007, I think. And of course, yeah, they went bankrupt. So, yeah, you don't see the Champ Car World Series anymore. And alright, let's go inside the Bandito room and see what stuff we got. Alright, so that's the first thing down here. I want to show you what it is. Well, there's definitely something inside this case, and you want to see what it is? Well, it is dark, but you can see the Apple logo. Let me turn on the lights. There you go. Now you can definitely see better. This is, of course, a PowerBook 520C, and it was the first ever laptop that I know of to have a trackpad, because most other laptops at the time had like a trackball, so it was pretty good for its time. But of course, it wasn't the first PowerBook to have a color screen. The PowerBook 165C came out a year before it. But it was definitely ahead of its time and represents the image of the modern day laptops. And of course, what we have in the drawer are some keyboards, Apple keyboards, not Microsoft keyboards, and some gaming controllers. Here's the Sega Genesis. And of course, on top of the TV, we have Nintendo 64 and the Super Nintendo. I bet I don't need to give you an introduction of what these gaming systems are, because I'm sure everybody knows about them, right? I'm sure you're all familiar with them. And of course, we have on the table N64 controller, SNES controller, and of course there's a box there that has an N64 racing wheel, and of course the NES Zapper, which I haven't used yet. And of course, down there we got the Xbox, not the 360, and the PlayStation 2, but you can barely see it though. And of course there's a power strip for all the different gaming consoles. And down there we have the original Bondi Blue iMac G3, an Indigo iMac G3, a Power Macintosh G3 Blue and White. And an interesting note of this computer is that it was the last ever computer made by Apple to use the ADB protocol. And of course, after that, Apple stopped using it. It's pretty cool. And of course, we have over there the NES. Of course, the Sega Game Gear. It's definitely another one of the most underrated gaming systems ever. And in my opinion, it's superior to the Game Boy because the games are in color and it's also backlit. But the Game Boy also has some good games though, so respect the Game Boy. Even though the Sega Game Gear is a good system. And of course another Super Nintendo. We have another Nintendo 64. Boxes up here. Collection of random stuff over here. That includes die-cast cars. Star Wars toys. If you can see it. Transformers action figures. And other containers of random stuff. And of course on the shelf we have die-cast cars, a Lightning McQueen car, it's the one that talks and moves if you press like a specific button. If you have one. And of course, there are movies down there, and this is where I keep all the PlayStation 2 games. And of course, this is where I keep the Xbox games down there, I think. And of course, this is where I keep all the SNES games, the N64 games, the Sega Genesis games, and this over here is where the PlayStation games are. Let's go take a closer look, shall we? And there's more VHS movies there, and a display of Star Wars stuff. Display of Lego stuff, and there's also an airplane over there. There's a Sheldon poster over there, and of course on the shelf for the Xbox games there are some airplanes there, and of course this is where I keep all the Apple laptops. It's inside of the Mac crawler. And its name is a combination of Sandcrawler and Macintosh computers. Yeah, the Mac crawler. Alright, so, and this is where I keep some of the laptops. And of course, I'll give you an example of one of them, the PowerBook 1400 CS. Yeah, this was the first ever laptop to include an optical drive, which is yet another feature found on most laptops today. So it's pretty cool for its time. Of course, on the table where the N64 controller and the SNES controller is, we also have a Sega Genesis arcade joystick. Another Xbox right there. Computer games over there. And television games over there. more PlayStation 2 games over there, more television games under there, and of course a Commodore VIC-20 over here. And this is a pretty good computer for any collectors of vintage computers. But of course, I've heard that the graphics don't look good for 1981 standards. But I haven't tried it yet. And for some reason, it's been on the list of worst computers ever made. I don't know why. It's a pretty good computer for its time, but I've seen like worse computer color palettes, like the ZX Spectrum color palette, because the ZX Spectrum has like the weirdest looking color palette I've ever seen of any computer system. And of course, there's like a portable TV right there. You remember those, right? And of course, there's a box of stuff. And of course, buried under there is a racing wheel for the IBM PC. I haven't tried it yet because I don't have like an IBM PC. And of course, another thing buried under there is like a joystick for the IBM PC, I think. Alright, let me see if I can find it. Because it's definitely buried under there. Yep, there it is. And of course, over here we have the box for the PS1, which is basically like a redesigned model of the PlayStation 1. And of course, it is smaller, which means it takes up less space. But there is one downside to it, though. It has an AC adapter, which means it takes up more room in the electrical outlets. And of course, it doesn't have a serial port, but only a few games for the PlayStation support it, though. It also doesn't have a parallel port, but that was removed in the 1999 model of the original PlayStation. And of course, over here I have the Harry Potter Levitating Challenge. And of course, if you've seen the Tweeterman review of the Mindflex, he has mentioned in his video that he used to have a Harry Potter themed game like this, and of course, this is it. And it does live up to the name. It is a very challenging game. And of course, if you get to the end of the obstacle course, then you're the man. But unlike the Mindflex, where it uses your mind to control the ball, it uses like a lever to control the ball. Of course, over here I have Fireball Island. Yeah. Now this is what you call a board game, because it's pretty good. And of course, if you want more information about this board game, I recommend you to check out the Board James review of Fireball Island. And if you haven't seen it, well, go see it, because it's pretty good. And you'll learn all about the rules of the game. Of course, over here I have the Intellivision, and instead of like having a joystick, it has this weird disc thingy. And it also acts as a button. And it also has a numeric keypad, just like the ColecoVision and the Atari 5200. And also, it has an overlay. Well, many games have the overlays, but Donkey Kong doesn't. But thankfully, if you know what the controls are, then you can play it. And there's also a redesigned model of the Intellivision called the Intellivision 2. But of course, unlike the original Intellivision, which had like a traditional power cord, the Intellivision 2 had an AC adapter, which means that it takes up more space in the electrical outlet. And of course, that's the thing I hate about AC adapters. But you can swap controllers with it, which is pretty cool, because you can't do that on the Intellivision. The controllers of the original Intellivision are hardwired to the system. Well, I gave you a tour of the original Bandito room, but this may be the last time you'll ever see the original Bandito room. So, I'm going to give you like a quick tour of the new Bandito room. Well, it hasn't been finished yet, but as you can see, it's going to have like an area where there's going to be cubicles, where all the gaming systems are, and there's also going to be some tables where I'm going to put my Macintosh computers on. So it's all going to be pretty cool. And there's also more stuff in the bedroom, but I'll do a separate video of the tour of the bedroom. And of course, that's it for the tour of the original Bandito room. It's pretty good. And of course, the new Bandito room is going to have the same futon. Where I could sit down and play my video games. And of course, like I said before, I'll see you later.